Am I audible? Hello, am I audible? Hello, am I audible? Can you hear me? All right, so let's start the session. In today's session, we are going to talk about the idioms. Now, let me just share the screen first. I hope the screen is visible to everyone. Is it?
Yes, mom, and you're audible as well.
Okay, perfect. All right, so let me start. All right, in today's session, we are going to talk about idioms and phrases. When we talk about idioms are those phrasal verbs, and they do not contain, when you speak an idiom to somebody, you do not exactly mean verbatim word to word, but it enhances the way you speak, and that's why idioms and phrases are something that are used to enhance your vocabulary and it helps you explain yourself better. They are used for beautification of whatever you're saying. So, in today's session, we are going to learn how to master our idioms and phrases. Now, as we all are aware that IELTS, specifically in the speaking section, we are going to be marked on four band descriptors: fluency and coherence, lexical resource, grammatical range and accuracy, and pronunciation. When we talk about fluency and coherence refers to the linking phrases that we use. Here's an example. For example, on one hand, on the other hand, furthermore, in addition, in contrast, they help you to channel and organize your thoughts perfectly. Then phrases are used to introduce your points. For example, from my perspective, it seems to me that they can help you to present your idea, or they can even help you to present an argument in a more clearer and precise manner. When we come to lexical resource is nothing but the range of vocabulary that you use through idiomatic languages and phrases. For example, there are certain idioms like to burn the midnight oil, a piece of cake, a cakewalk, hit the nail on the head. All of these idioms, you cannot take them literally. However, if you use them in sentences, they help in beautification of whatever you're saying. So that's the reason why under lexical resource, idioms and phrases hold a special importance. Then when we come about the fact of using collocation. Collocation is basically when you know exactly which word to use before a word. For example, we don't take a decision, we make a decision. We don't make a risk, rather we take a risk. For example, you don't say that I did a mistake, because when you say I did a mistake, it comes across that you did it on purpose. So we say I made a mistake. So these are collocations, and these are the phrases or words that are used before a particular word to exactly come across as what you're trying to say. Now, coming to grammatical range and accuracy. Grammatical range and accuracy is very simple. It talks about the range of sentences that you use. It could be simple, compound, or even complex. It helps your agility. It helps you to show that your ability to use advanced grammar is pretty perfect, and then it also helps you to ensure the grammatical accuracy in the sentence structures that you create. Coming to pronunciation, every when we come from India, we know that there are a lot of places and the accent differs from places to places. But the thing is that when we speak in English, it should bind everything together, and that's the reason why pronunciation holds an importance. So it's very important for you to pronounce the words with correct intonation, stress, and wherever you want the audience to take particular note, use stress on those particular words, and they can help you to make your speech more comprehensible and natural. And practicing the pronunciation is of utmost importance, because certain people, when they come from a particular area, they start pronouncing the words differently. A lot of people, they stretch on the words, but when you talk in English, it should not seem that you are bringing in your own regional diversity. Rather, English should bring uniformity. So these are the four parameters on which you are judged, and idioms and phrases, they hold a lot of prominence because it helps you to make your vocabulary sound advanced. And remember, we would never take an idiom literally. It is just used to bring in creativity, and it is just used to bring more beautification in what you say. For example, the idiom, it costs an arm and leg. It literally means that something which is very expensive, but of course you cannot take the literal meaning, because when you say it cost an arm and leg, it means that something is so expensive that it is costing you to sell your own arm or a leg. So that's the reason, never take idioms literally to your heart, because they are just used for inferences and not for direct understanding. Now, coming to some examples of useful phrases for IELTS speaking. When you want to begin your response, you can always start, in my opinion. That means that this is what you personally believe in, or you can say, personally, I believe that, and then from my point of view, or to be honest. All of these phrases you can use only when the examiner has asked you to bring in your point of view. If the examiner has not asked for your point of view, do not say in my opinion, because it actually sounds forced. So whenever the examiner says that, do you think this should be the case, do you think that should be the case, then you can start your response by saying, in my opinion, personally. Or if you can't think of any other phrase, you can just start your answer with a well, stretch on the word well, and then you start the answer. Now, coming to giving examples, we in the IELTS speaking, you will use a lot of inferences, a lot of examples. So instead of just saying, for example, you can use these phrases. One is, for instance. The next one is, such as. Then third, take this for an example. For example, take the smartphone as an example. It has revolutionized the way we communicate. So take dash as an example to illustrate this. And these are the ways in which you can give more examples without sounding repetitive. Now, coming to expressing agreement or disagreement. Agreement is when you align with a particular thought, and disagreement when you do not align with a particular thought. So when you want to align with a thought, you can say, I couldn't agree more. You can say, I completely agree. Or you can say, I am particularly in sync. These are the ways in which we say that I completely agree with your thoughts. When you want to disagree, you can say, I do understand your point, but I think, and then you can tell whatever your thought process is. In this way, you're being polite also, and then you are pitching in your point of view as well. You can even say, I see your point, but. And if you want to come across very direct, you want to directly disagree with something, so you can say, I completely disagree. And there's one more phrase that we say, I beg to differ. It means that you want to point out another perspective, and you do not feel that whatever the other person is saying is correct, so you say, I beg to differ. Now, coming to clarifying or rephrasing, when you want to put your point of perspective in whatever the other person is saying, we say, what I mean is, in other words, to put it another way, let me rephrase it. This one, let me rephrase it, is a very commonly used phrase. It makes that you want to really rectify the way you're saying, and you want to make sure that it does not come across anything incorrect. So we say, let me rephrase it. When somebody is not able to understand what you have said, you can always say, okay, let me rephrase it, and then you can use another set of language to make sure that you are coming across okay. Now, the next is speculating and hypothesizing. The next is speculating something. When we talk about speculating, we want to pitch in our own perspective, but you are talking about an imaginary situation. So we would say, I would imagine that, it is possible that, perhaps, if I had to guess. That means you're not really certain about something, but you are just pitching in your own speculation, or you are something which is very hypothetical, you are hypothesizing these particular terms. So in this way, we use these phrases. Coming to adding more information, we say additionally, furthermore, not only that, but and moreover. These are very commonly used phrases whenever you want to add any more information. We even say as well as, we say moreover, we say in addition to what I've already said, we even say having said that, and then you put in another point. So these are the phrases that we use when we want to add extra information. Coming to conclusion, you can just you can definitely say to wrap up, you can say to recapitulate, you can even say to deduce, you can say to reiterate, you can say in conclusion, to sum up, all things considered, ultimately is a very beautiful and short and crisp way to summarize whatever has been said. So this is one way in which you can sum up everything that you want to conclude. Now, coming to expressing uncertainty, uncertainty is when you're not really sure of what the other person is saying, when you're not really, when you do not really align to that particular thought and you want to very politely disagree with it. So we say, I'm not sure, but you can say it's hard to say, but I don't know for certain, but as far as I know, and then you can tell your point, or you can definitely pitch in your point. So wherever you do not agree or you're completely not in sync with the other person, you can just say, I'm not really sure, but I think the trend is increasing. Or you can say, I think that the trend is skyrocketing. Or you can say, I'm not really sure, but I reckon the trend is increasing day by day. The next one, it's hard to say, but it's again when you do not, when you're not really certain about a point, but you definitely have to say something about it. So we explicitly mention that you're not really certain about certain things, but you want to give in your point, and that's when you express uncertainty. Coming to making comparisons, of course, in the IELTS, you will have to make comparisons between, let's say, are you a night owl or an early bird? So here you're making comparisons. So you can definitely say in comparison, similarly, on the contrary, unlike. So these are certain phrases that you can use when you are trying to draw comparisons between two things. Now, can we use paraphrases to write IELTS writing task 2? This is a very commonly asked question, that can we beautify our language in the writing task 2 by using idioms and phrases? To answer your question, yes, phrases can be used in the IELTS task 2, and it can help you organize your essay, present your arguments clearly, and improve your overall coherence and cohesion. Now, phrases, again, remember, you can use phrases, you can use firstly, secondly, as well as moreover, and all of that, but you have to steer clear from using idioms, because idioms are very informally used language, and in the IELTS task 2, you are expected to be very formal with your language, so much so that you can't even use contractions. That is, like, you cannot write don't as DON apostrophe T, instead you have to write do not. So you have to make sure that you are using phrases only, but you do not expand to using idioms. Idioms are only restricted to your spoken vocabulary. That means in the spoken part, which is the speaking test, you can use plethora of idioms and phrases as well. But in the writing task 2, you can only use phrases. Do not use any idioms. Now, when we talk about phrases, what kinds of phrases can be used? Let's say you want to introduce a topic. So for introduction, you can say in the recent years, there has been a growing debate about, and then whatever the question is, you can always paraphrase the question. Or there's another way that's a very there's a very smart way to open your introduction. You can always say it cannot be gainsaid. That means there's no debate about this topic, and then you can paraphrase the question. The next is, it is often argued that education is the key to reducing inequality. Now, here also there is a phrase that you're using, and then you just come to paraphrasing the question. Remember, using paraphrases is actually really good, but you cannot really use any idioms. When you are expected to state your opinion, or when you are supposed to give a thesis statement in the opinion-based question, you can just say, in my opinion. Or you can, when the question says that you have to discuss both the views and then give your opinion, then you can say this essay will discuss both the views and provide my own perspective. So this is one phrase that you can use for an essays where you have to discuss both pros and cons, advantages and disadvantages, boon and bane, and then you also have to give your 2 cents. Then you can just write this in this way, that in this essay we will discuss both the views and then I will provide my own perspective. See, you are using personal pronoun in a non-opinion based essay because the question will ask you that discuss both the views and then give your own opinion. Only then you can use your personal pronouns. Otherwise, we ask students to not include anything that has any personal pronoun. So I, me, and myself are refrained in a non-opinion based essay unless and until you are asked to give your opinion. Coming to the body paragraphs, when you have to introduce the main point, we start with writing. Firstly, we say first and foremost, to embark with, to begin with. You can even say one of the main reasons why. Another significant factor is here you are actually introducing your main point of views. Coming to providing examples or evidence, similar to the speaking task, you will have to use a lot of examples in the writing task as well. So you can say, for instance, such as to exemplify, to reiterate, for to give an example. All of these synonyms can be used when you are writing your own perspective or when you are giving more examples or observations. So, for instance, many countries have implemented policies to reduce carbon emissions. This is how you include your point. Or you even use such as, for example, renewable energy resources such as solar and wind power are becoming more popular. When we talk about to exemplify, this is another way to give in your example. So you can just say to exemplify, and then you can say consider the case of Norway, the electric cars are heavily subsidized. So whenever you're giving an example, instead of writing the very monotonous, for example, you can bring in some creativity by using for instance, such as to exemplify. These are the ways in which you are just giving your own examples, but you're not sounding redundant. When you talk about contrasting points are the points when you give when you do not want to sink in with a particular idea but you want to pitch in the other one. So we say on the other hand, we say however, we say despite this. You can use the very simple in contrast. On the other side, on the flip side, all of these are the phrases that are used when you want to put in a contrasting idea of thought or you want to put in the contrasting point of view. These are the phrases that we use. Coming to the next one, additional information. Of course, once you begin an opinion-based essay, you need to have two body paragraphs, first and the second one. So when you begin with the first body paragraph and you want to add another body paragraph, so we use moreover, we say additionally, we say furthermore, and we even say secondly if you've used firstly for the first body paragraph, and these are the ways in which you sequence your body paragraphs. Coming to balancing arguments means you're providing an equilibrium. So when you want to provide an equilibrium, we say while it is true that it is also important to note that means that you are providing a balance between two arguments. Although we should also consider, we even say having said that, and then we pitch in the other point of perspective. Despite the fact I believe in, for example, let's see an example over here. While it is true that online learning offers flexibility, it is also important to note that it may not be suitable for everyone. So that means you have accepted the point that it offers flexibility, but you are also giving another perspective that not everybody is well adept when it comes to using online learning platforms. Coming to the next one, although fast food is convenient, we should also consider its health implications. So you have accepted the fact that it's very easy for anyone to order food, but the problem is that with the consumption of too much of adulterated food, you are putting your health at stake. Coming to the next one, despite the fact that technology has its drawbacks, I believe that its benefit outweigh the disadvantages. This is a very important phrase that you can use for questions where you have to draw conclusions by making comparisons. So you can say, although internet has its own demerits, but the merits always surpasses its demerits. That means you're saying that the merits are far more when you consider the demerits. Okay, so these are certain ways in which you can make balance between two arguments. Now, there are certain tips that you have to consider while using phrases very effectively. The first one is practice it regularly. Familiarize yourself with all these phrases and then practice them using the context, because in the IELTS, contextual grammar, contextual vocabulary, contextual idioms are essential. It's not really just important that you use idioms, but the context of it should be clearly met. The next is record yourself when you are talking. Let's say just take a topic and you record yourself. In this way, you will know how seamlessly can you incorporate language, phrases, and idioms whenever you speak. If it shows that you are struggling in terms of including any language, that means you need to work harder. The next one is natural integration. The whole idea is to speak naturally. That's the reason when somebody speaks too fast, I tell them not to emulate an accent, not to speak fast or slow. Retain the way you naturally speak, and then the language, the vocabulary, the idioms, the phrases, the alienation, everything should come seamlessly. It should not seem that you are forcing the language on yourself, and also avoid overusing them, because when you're talking about certain things, the language that you use, it should come naturally. It should not feel like you are enforcing that language onto yourself. So whatever comes naturally is good. If you have to force yourself, then steer clear from using the language. The next one is context awareness. Of course, whenever you're using something, it should be in context. It should make sense. It should appropriately answer the question being asked. For example, in the third part where you have to discuss a lot of abstract topics, you can use a lot of idioms, you can use a lot of phrases to enhance your, precision. Coming to variety, the phrases are innumerable. You can learn a lot of phrases and you can bring in variety. For example, if you want to say on that particular day I was unwell, you can say I was unwell. You can say I wasn't doing well. You can say I was under the weather. You can say I was slightly indisposed. These are certain ways in which you can just communicate that you were not feeling well, or you can even say I was feeling the blues. So you have to use a mix of different phrases to demonstrate your range of vocabulary. Now, coming to some commonly used idioms. Now, idioms and phrases are very commonly used in the speaking part. If we look at this one, the first one is break the ice. We say break the ice when we want to initiate a conversation. For example, you can say I broke the ice at the party by telling a funny story. The next one is burning the midnight oil. It means that when you work really late into the night, so you can say, for preparing my IELTS, I pulled up my socks and burned the midnight oil. Hit the nail on the head. It is used when you want to describe exactly what is causing a situation or the problem. For example, when he said the project was underfunded, he hit the nail on the head. He justified the whole idea with a point of perspective. Bite off more than you can chew. It means that, when you take a lot of responsibilities over your shoulders, but you cannot make all of them come true. So we say, by accepting or by working two jobs, I have bitten more than I could chew. It means that, I have taken more responsibilities and I cannot suffice any of them. The next is, as I told you, cost an arm and a leg. It means something which is a very expensive. So you can say the new Parker pen that I just bought, it costed me an arm and a leg. And a very one of the very lesser commonly used idioms is splitting hairs. Splitting hairs means when you are putting too much stress into details and they are not necessary. So you say, it might seem that I'm splitting hairs, but it's really important for the project. So when you are putting too much detail or too much observation into a detail, you are splitting hairs. The next one is a bone to pick. A bone to pick is something we say when you have when you want to talk about a particular idea with someone, or someone has said something that you found very offensive and now you want to clear the air, we say I have a bone to pick with you. The next is let the cat out of the bag. This one, or you can say spill the beans. These are all the idioms used to say to reveal the secret. Even we say a little birdie told me. That means that when you do not want to reveal the identity of somebody who told you a secret, so we say a little birdie told me. So the next one is let the cat out of the bag or spill the beans. That means when you are asked to reveal a secret. So she let the cat out of the bag about the surprise party. Now, when you are using these idioms, one thing that you have to be particularly sure about is that they should seem they should seem seamless. It should not seem that you are forcing yourself or you're enforcing yourself about for using these kinds of vocabulary. A lot of students, they learn, the thing is that I have seen that there's a lot of PDFs available where they tell you exactly what to say for a particular question, and a lot of people, they rote learn those answers. I would say that it's a problem, because what if you struggle with a particular idea, you forget completely what was written in the PDF, then it becomes very difficult for you to realign yourself. So the best thing is that you can always look at the PDFs to get a general gist, but do not mug up anything. So is the case with the idioms. You can always learn the idioms, but do not learn them with examples, because when you learn them in examples, you just restrict your vocabulary with to those examples. The best thing is that try to create your own sentences incorporating the idioms that you have learned. In this way you will be able to incorporate new vocabularies as well, and you will be able to use those vocabulary very flexibly. So this was the reason why idioms and phrases are important. To recapitulate what all we have done in this particular session, we talked about idioms, we talked about phrasal verbs, or we can even call them phrases. Why is it important to use idioms? It's simply because you have to showcase your that you're very flexible when it comes to using vocabulary. Then coming to the phrases, phrases are important because they help you align your thoughts together. They help you to bring in more clarity to whatever you have said. The next one is, can we use phrases in the writing task too? The simple answer is definitely you should use a lot of phrases, because they help you channel your thoughts together and they help you make more sense. The next is, can I use idioms in the writing task 1 or 2? The answer is a big fat no. You cannot use idioms, simply because of the fact that idioms are very informally used. And you can definitely use idioms in the speaking part, because they help you. It's a very comfortable, no, informal style of conversation that you have. We say it's a conversational style of interview. But when we talk about the writing task too, you have to use very formal words. You cannot even use contractors. That is, you have to write everything in full sentences. Then we talked about how can we incorporate idioms, how can we incorporate phrases in different contexts, and I gave you plethora of examples. And with that, I come to an end for this session. If you have any question or any doubts, you can ask me. Remember to use phrases in the IELTS writing task too, but do not use any idioms in the writing task too. And for speaking tasks, you can use both phrases as well as the idioms. It will help you channel your thoughts together, and it will also help you to speak in a better and profound manner. So this was all about today's session. We talked about why idioms are important, how can we incorporate phrases in our day-to-day conversation or written language. And I hope that you keep on practicing and help your own self for broadening your perspective. And in this way, you will definitely be able to score better in the IELTS test. All right, with this, we come to an end for this session. I will see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining. Bye.